Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words. Today we're playing my beloved Turbodepths. This is a deck that I have a lot of information on my Patreon. My Discord is also the Turbodepths Legacy Discord. So if you are interested in this deck, look in the description below and you will find some very useful links. So what is this deck? What is it trying to do? Well, we have this card called Dark Depths. When it's got no counters on it, we get a 20/20 indestructible flying creature. So the aim of the game is to remove the counters with Hexmage, or to make a copy that doesn't have any counters on, which is what the Thespian stage will be, and then we ride that to victory. We've got fast mana to power out in the form of Lotus Petal and the Spirit Guide. We've got hand disruption like Thoughtseize, Inquisition, and Duress to try and make sure that we can pop any removal spells or interaction out of their hand. We've got ourselves Crop Rotation and Sylvan Scrying to find our pieces. We've got Once Upon a Time to dig and make our early hand a little bit quicker. And we've got Not of This World, Pithing Needle, and Disruptor Flute to protect us from various things like Karakas or Wasteland or Source of Plowshares, that sort of thing. We've got some silver bullets in the land, Ghost Quarter to blow up opposing lands that we care about. The reason we have Ghost Quarter instead of Wasteland is we're usually going to have Pithing Needle on Wasteland, so this can then pop a Karakas and what have you. We've got Boseiju, which can do similar things whilst also hitting artifacts. Bojuka Bog to get some free wins off of graveyard decks. We've got the Sejiri Steppe to protect our Marit Lage. And that's about it. Sideboard wise, we've got 3 Faerie Macabre, 3 Collector Ouphe, and 3 Sylvan Safekeeper. These are going to be found off of the Once Upon a Time, so it kind of makes it feel like you've got more copies of these cards. Abrupt Decay is the best thing for removing Megas of the Moon, Harbinger of the Seas, Opposition Agent, Ensnaring Bridge, all that sort of jam. And then we've got a couple more Not of This World, so we need to protect our creatures. If this deck appeals to you, and I think it is a really good deck, and it's really fun and tricksy to play, if it appeals to you, please check out the description and look at my Patreon. I even have a free guide to playing a budget version of this deck, if that is something that interests you. Alright, plugs over and done with. Like, subscribe, let's jam. For free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping on high-end singles, classic products, and full sets, check out 3-for-1 Trading. Whether it's the legacy or pre-modern that I play on this channel, or even vintage and old school, they've got you covered. Find them through the link in the description of this video and use my code COWFREE for free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. Here is our opener. It's an interesting one. We have a turn 2 Marit Lage that maybe gets sped up here. I think I'm going to keep this one. So you can Once Upon a Time and then we can crop rotate this into an Urborg and Thoughtseize our opponent. We do expose ourselves a little bit here to some interaction from our opponent, but we're on the play, so you don't have to worry about days or Thoughtseize immediately hitting us. Thoughtseize might be able to take our Hexmage, but we get to Thoughtseize first, so should all come out in the wash. Let's fire off our free spell first. Interesting. So we could take the Bayou here and then Thoughtseize without exposing our crop rotation. I think that's probably the best bet. Now, there's an argument for taking the Thespian stage, so we have a different half of the combo. There's also an argument for taking the second Hexmage, but I think that's the least likely option that we want to take. I think it's the Bayou. We use this Bayou to Thoughtseize and make sure the coast is clear for when we want to crop rotate next turn. Fail the Breaker, Shatterskull Smashing. Okay, so we don't particularly care about any of these things. I'm going to take the One Ring. This is like a mono-red Stompy matchup, which is one of the best matchups for us. The one downside here is if our opponent draws a Chalice and decides to sit Traitors out the Chalice straight away. But that's not very good looking at what the rest of their hand does. So I think we're probably going to see a tapped Shatterskull Smashing this turn. Or they could start off with the Saga and get that running. Those are probably the two most likely options. Alright, here is the tapped Shatterskull Smashing. Okay, we have almost certainly won this game. Okay, we have won this game. Good. Let's crop rotation this away. So we're going to get this Urborg, play our Dark Depths, play our Hexmage here. We'll remove these now because they have Sundering Eruption and things. And the only way they can interact with this is Dead and Gone, which they almost certainly don't have in their deck. Like, that's a sideboard card. But even if they do have it, we've got it covered. This is one of our best matchups. It's like 80+%. Doesn't mean we always win it though, but that was a pretty good one. So we don't need Graveyard Hate. We don't really need Not of This World. And we don't really need the Sejiri Steppe either. This gets us our Abrupt Decays. And that'll do. If they do have Dead and Gone, that's something that we can usually play around as well. We keep the Disruptor Flute stuff because they have things like Broadsword Bombardiers and the One Ring that we want to make less viable for them. What do we think about this particular hand? So we can turn 1, get this Knot of this World going. We've got mana to pay around a... So we can Abrupt Decay, if we draw it, around Blood Moon with this hand. But how are we actually winning the game? So a lot rests on this Once Upon a Time. If we find a black source for this Once Upon a Time, we can have a turn 1 2020. Sure, I think we keep this one. It's a little bit sketchy, but I'm okay with this. So if they go turn 1 Blood Moon, all we need to do is find either the Boseiju or one of our 4 Abrupt Decays. It's just a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Sure, we don't care about this. Sylvan Scrying. So we're not quite where we need to be. Let's fire in this Once Upon a Time first. Oh, the Urborg. Okay. Well, sometimes things are going to work out well for us. Let's play this guy. And then we can crop rotate in our opponent's turn. So our opponent's most likely going to tap out because that's what their deck does. If they don't tap out, we don't need to act. Because the one thing that we care about that they might have is dead and gone. They kept the cards in their hand. This will die to the first strike of my guy. They're going to play the One Ring. That would make sense, trying to get the token there to play a 4-drop. They go for Blood Moon, we win in response. Okay, so playing out an Ancient Tomb to let their Sided Traitors go away. What do you have, opponent? 5 mana. It's a Magus of the Moon with Dead and Gone mana available. Interesting. Our opponent might have double Magus of the Moon. They could have Dead and Gone. You don't see it a lot these days. If we get beaten by it, I'm willing to accept that. Alright, we just got the GGs in chat there. Is that GGs because they've got a Dead and Gone, or is that GGs because we've got a 2020? Because they do have the red mana from this token. Ah, okay, they were going for the double Blood Moon play. That was more likely. So against the Turbodepths deck, 1 Blood Moon usually helps us. It takes 2 Blood Moons to actually kill us. And normally by the time we get the second one, we've won. Alright, very easy matchup. Unlucky opponent. Not really what you want to get paired into playing the mono red. Let's go to round number 2. How do we feel about this particular opener? This is putting an awful amount of strain on this Once Upon a Time. If the Once Upon a Time hits us an Urborg, then sure, we're having a good time. If not, then we're making a turn 2 Dark Depths anyway? Yeah, okay, this hand is fine. We're going to use these as fast mana to power out an early Dark Depths. Caracas, you say? Ocelot Pride, you say? Not in love with this for us. So we can play around the thing that we can see. I think that's what we have to do. I do kind of want to name... I think because they're probably going to gain life as well, we're going to need to hit them multiple times, so we should be naming the Caracas. Okay. So next turn, we can play the Dark Depths. We should have also cast our Once Upon a Time. I don't know what happened to my brain in that particular moment. Not that I think it makes any difference how this game's going to play out. Alright, that is good news for us. I'll play as Dark Depths. They probably don't think that we can combo here. Failure. Yep, really hate the failure. That can blink out our Marit Lage. So we need to see what our opponent's up to. A Wasteland, okay. An Ajani, sure. I'm going to presumably blink the Ajani and get another cat. Yep. Now this is fine, provided they just Wasteland us now. Instead of playing around the fast mana that we have. I'm not going to fire that Wasteland off, opponent. They are not. Okay. Okay. Try and get ourselves a Bayou here. Pithing Needle on the Wasteland. The problem here is they can just Wasteland our Dark Depths now, knowing that they've got the failure to blink it. Okay, we need to hit a crop rotation here. No, we can't hit a crop rotation. It's a Once Upon a Time. Oh, we're just dead. Okay, this is not a great matchup for us, as you can probably imagine. What do we want to do here? Probably want a selection of different things here. The most important things are these, though. We don't need hand disruption in this matchup. These can all hit Swords to Plowshares, so I'm okay with having these. We don't need a Bojuka Bog. Check out Duress because this doesn't actually affect their pressure. That gets us 1 Abrupt Decay, and I think that's about all we're doing. This Once Upon a Time needs to find us a land. I think that's okay. Our opponent's probably going to mulligan to a way of dealing with our guy. We do have a way of covering that though. And they maybe only get 1 turn cycle to do that. Once Upon a Time for free, please. We did find a land. Play this Urborg. If they try and just wasteland this, we can just turn it into what we need it to be. Caracas, you say. Guide of Souls, you say. Not the most fun for us. Okay. This works pretty well. So we want to play around Wasteland. So we make this now. And then they hopefully spend their turn trying to answer it. This looks funny from our opponent's perspective, but they're going to know that we've got something going on over here. We have Sejiri Steppe and Not of This World. So we can answer the Caracas and the Swords to Plowshares. We can't answer a third thing. There's a Wasteland that we played around nicely. Actually, the Sejiri Steppe doesn't answer this, does it? It will answer any sort of plows they have. Or a Solitude. They can't plow off of this Wasteland. And they can't really play anything to gain life to put themselves to 21. So I think we might be able to sneak this one. Solitude, you say? Sure. This is going to gain them 1 life, which is quite frustrating. Exile up to 1 other target creature. So we could put the trigger on here, or we could give them the opportunity to do Guide of Soul stuff. This 1 life is pretty annoying for us. Where is it? Sejiri Steppe. So now we need to find a way of dealing with this Caracas. So we have a selection of ways that do deal with the Caracas. That is not one of them. Right, we'll attack with this Marit Lage. And we're going to have to try and find the last points of damage off this Hexmage. Solitude being the card they had was very frustrating. They tend not to even run that many Solitudes in their deck. Another Wasteland. So they can waste both of our lands and bounce our Marit Lage, but then they have to chump block with the Guide of Souls. Interesting. Disruptor Flute. Sure. Are you going to name Vampire Hexmage, or are they going to name Not of This World so we can't protect the Marit Lage? I think it's Not of This World here. We really don't want to see an Ocelot Pride, because that's a 1/1 first striker, so we'll trade with our guy. Not of This World. Yep, they bounced the Marit Lage. Come on, attack me, opponent, please. They did not attack us. Sylvan Scrying, we don't get to do anything with that. So this forces the chump block. And then they need to put a creature in that can tangle with this. They do have those in the cat. The Ajani's pretty good. Okay, the cat, that's not what we want to see. Shabby Backstreet, sure. What is our solution to get through this? Uncertain. That's certainly not it. Do I want to trade this for this? If we make them trade on our turn, so they can attack us with this. This is really weird. They left the card on top of their library. If we attack with this, they have to block. It means they don't get a second cat. How are we dealing 1 damage to our opponent? If we let this attack us once, then they get a token. We don't have a way of bouncing a token. We won't be able to draw an Abrupt Decay next turn. Yeah. Awkward. So if they attack us with this and we trade, they don't get a 1/1 token either. Our opponent almost certainly has another creature on top. Alright, I think we're going to trade off with the cat here. Why does it have to have first strike? Sure, so they're going to go up to 2 here, but they're going to lose the cat. They're not going to be able to make additional cats. And maybe we can draw a Hexmage and then try and beat them down again. Oh, they had another cat. Yikes, that would have been super bad for us if we didn't attack then, because they would have got 2 cats. Another Urborg is pretty diabolically bad. Team, I think we are in the bin. Now they're on 3 lives, so Hexmage isn't going to get it done. We've got Caracas and double Wasteland to get through. Like, why haven't you just Wastelanded all of my lands? That's what I don't understand. Yeah, I think we can just concede this one. The matchup is gone. This is one of the trickier matchups. You need to sort of come in and get a big hit. As you saw, we had tools to get through 2 things, but the fact is that they gained 1 life off the Solitude, which is all they needed, which was frustrating. And we still could have drawn like a Ghost Quarter or a Pithing Needle, and that would have been fine, but we didn't quite get there. Let's go to round 3. Okay, this is a fast mana away. I think we can keep this one. What flavour of deck is our opponent going to be? Secluded Courtyard naming Eldrazi? Yes, okay. I really like the Eldrazi deck in general, but it's not very good in this matchup. Let's Once Upon a Time here. Elvish Spirit Guide. Sure. We'll make a turn 1 2020. Opponent, if they don't commit anything to the board, then they're not getting anywhere. If they do commit something to the board, they get hit by the 2020. So the two things we have to be concerned of in this matchup is Kozilek's Command, which is a colorless spell that removes our creature, but we have that beat, and Wasteland. There is the Wasteland. Sure, let's attack for 2. So we could have made the guy this turn if we wanted to. Let's play a Pithing Needle. He's letting us name Wasteland here. Interesting. I will play out this Urborg, I believe. No, is that true? We can just turn this into what we need. No, we're fine. We'll just pass over. So we could have gone a turn earlier. I think that would have been fine if we'd have just made it, and then they wouldn't be able to do Kozilek's Command. The thing I'm kind of worried about is our opponent having access to double Kozilek's Command, so we probably should have gone on turn 1. But I think this is fine. Sure, that's a Lotus Petal. This gives them the mana for a Kozilek's Command. But again, we are fine here. Kind of playing with our food a little bit, to be honest. Alright, let's scoop it up. Alright, Eldrazi. So we don't need Bojuka Bog. Sejiri Steppe, decidedly bad here. Duress, not that amazing. Take these out. We get 2 Not of This World in. And 1 Abrupt Decay. So we can blow up a Chalice sometimes if we need to. Fine. You can trim down on Inquisitions, but I do like Inquisition being able to say, sort of have a quick look at your opponent's hand, work out what you're playing around. But the fact that Inquisition can also take pressure that your opponent has is really clutch. We don't mind the damage from the Thoughtseize because generally speaking we should be clocking our opponent better than they're clocking us. So this is a turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2. So this is a turn 3 we kill on turn 4. It's a little bit slower than I would like, but I think we can keep this. There's a bunch of things we can draw, like fast mana that changes this. Cavern of Souls. They're not playing a creature on turn 1 unless they got double Lotus Petal. There's one. I guess they could play one of the 2/2s, but I don't think that's a good use of Lotus Petal. So we drew fast mana. So we can go this and this gets us Sylvan. Yeah, so we can just Thoughtseize on 1, untap. Then we can't Thoughtseize on 1 if we want to get the... We could Hexmage on 1. And then on 2 we can go and Sylvan Scrying. And then if we draw another piece of fast mana, we also get to Thoughtseize our opponent. Disruptor Flute. Sure. They've burned a Lotus Petal for this. They might not be able to put any pressure in next turn. Okay, they've got an Ancient Tomb, so they can apply pressure here, and it is the worst pressure for us. This is the Line Breaker. So it's going to hit us for 4 this turn. I don't think we're putting this under the bus to save 1 point of damage. Okay, so now I think we're looking at doing Thoughtseize here. Kozilek's Command. They also have a Wasteland over there, which is not great to know about, but here it is. I will crack this for a Bayou right now. And I think we're going to Once Upon a Time. Oh, we should have attacked there. We're not blocking. We should be attacking. But I guess it doesn't matter if we're planning to hit our opponent for 20. That's the Ghost Quarter. Yep. So we've got Ghost Quarter and Wasteland over there. Could be tough. Let's have a Once Upon a Time. Okay. Dark Depths is the only option we have available. And Abrupt Decay. We'll attack with this. I guess we play this and give our opponent an opportunity to make a mistake. If they Ghost Quarter this, then we can blow this up. There's a Wasteland. The Ghost Quarter plus the Wasteland is a lot to get through though. The other option we had here was to play the Hexmage, by like giving our opponent room to make a mistake and let us win the game. Waste Escape Battle Mage just as a 2/2. So we can blow this guy up, or we can blow this up. I think we have to blow up the Line Breaker here, unfortunately. We do still have a Boseiju which can take this one out. But this game's gone a bit weird. Alright, we drew the Boseiju. We attack for 2 with our first striker. We can't play this actually because of the Disruptor Flute. That's why we couldn't do it last time as well. Do I want to Sylvan Scrying for anything here? We can Sylvan Scrying for a Ghost Quarter. Our opponent gets to respond when we do this. Okay, I think we're going to Boseiju this Disruptor Flute. And then we're going to play another Hexmage next turn. Oh, Dryad Temple. It's probably not what our opponent wants unless they've just got some bigger in their hand, which will probably beat us. Thought Not Seer. Yeah, that's pretty good. I wonder if they take the Hexmage here. Or they probably take the Sylvan Scrying. I think I'm more worried about them taking the Hexmage though, given our plan is blow up the Disruptor Flute, play another 2-2, a 2-1 guy. Yep. Alright, let's take out the Disruptor Flute. I wonder if they wasteland in response. They do indeed. They can go and get their one-of wastes that they should have. Actually, no, they can't because it doesn't have a basic type. Once Upon a Time. What can that do for us? This Ghost Quarter is really jamming us up. Alright, so we get the Sylvan Scrying here. We tutor up our Dark Depths. We play the Dark Depths, give our opponent an opportunity to make a mistake here. We can block with the Hexmage on the Wastegate Battle Mage. And then maybe next turn we can find something of this Once Upon a Time. Okay, just in with the Thought Not Seer. That's fine. It was not fine, but it's going to have to be okay. So we can't do this because of the Ghost Quarter. We can draw a Ghost Quarter of our own and that allows us to go off. There's the Ghost Quarter of our very own. They have one card in hand. We're supposed to play around additional wastelands. Can we fire off this Once Upon a Time for any value right now? Not particularly. Are we playing around the second? We're playing around another wasteland here. Like, we don't get to play around Kozilek's command here. But we can play around Wastegate Battle Mage, bouncing our guy. Okay, I think we're going to let them go to attacks and then make it. They just play another wasteland here and get us, then we lose. But we're already on really thin margins. There's only so thin we can make the margins. So we're going to Ghost Quarter their Ghost Quarter. And we're going to make the Marit Lage. This is so that we can block and kill the Thought Not Seer. We're trying to dodge Wastegate Battle Mage. If their last card in hand is Kozilek's command, and they get us, but it isn't. So we get to draw a card here. We have a lethal threat in play. 5 mana. Devourer of Destiny. Let's Once Upon a Time here. How are we going to beat this Devourer of Destiny? With great difficulty, I imagine. I guess we get another chump block for another turn. Dark Depths? Not a Dark Depths. So we have to chump block here. Which is a line breaker. That kills us. Okay. A little bit tight there, but I think we are pretty fine in this matchup as a general rule. Don't want to do anything differently. We could have another Sylvan Safekeeper over the Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay hitting Chalice kind of doesn't matter as much once we get past the first turns. So I think on the play, we're going to have the Safekeeper. Now, they obviously do have things like Disruptor Flute, but being on the play, having hand disruption that comes in first is good. Yeah, this is a turn 2. This is a turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 2020. So Thoughtseize, go to the face. Kozilek's command, line breaker, wasteland. Sure, we take the K command. That's the hardest thing for us to get through. Our opponent can play this one patiently, or they can try and slam here. So they probably just play. Okay, they play the Ghost Quarter first, and the Lotus Petal. Okay, that is an interesting one for us. So I think we are playing just the Hexmage out here. Let me just see how much interaction our opponent holds up. Because whilst they're not playing their guys out, we get to like crack in for a little bit of damage, make some more land drops. If they just play the line breaker here, we just get to send it. They're obviously worried about Elvish Spirit Guide into crop rotation here. Warping Whale. Not a bad draw. An interesting one. Sure. I will play out a Thespian's Stage. So we can get them with the Inquisition of Kozilek here. 2 line breakers, Wasteland Ancient Tomb. So if they play a threat here, we can just tee off on them. I guess they can play the Ancient Tomb and then get the line breaker in that way. Okay, so if we draw a land next turn, we can go. Actually, it depends which land we draw, doesn't it? Not of this world. Kind of helpful, but also not so helpful at the same time. If we Sylvan Scrying here, we don't have the crop rotation available. If we Sylvan Scrying using this and this, yes, it's very frustrating. We needed a little bit more mana, and now the Wasteland's going to come down. Yeah, our opponent drew pretty good with that Warping Whale there. Did you draw another threat as well? Of course they did. Yep, so now they get to crash for a bunch. Ghost Quarter is very much helpful, but we are dead on board. So is this helpful enough? If we hit... we can hit the Wasteland and see if they fire off on anything. They're floating a mana off of it. Okay. So Ghost Quarter lets you get a basic land, whereas Boseiju lets you get a land with a basic type. So, what is the play here? I don't think we have any options that let us win this game. So we can Sylvan Scrying for no value here. We can crop rotate one of these things away. They will Ghost Quarter us in response. And then what do we do? Die? That doesn't sound very good. We could play out a Spirit Guide, block this, take 3, 4, 5. But then we don't really have anything going on for the following turn. Alright, I think we need to make our opponent make a mistake. So in my records, this matchup is actually favourable. But there's certainly ways it can turn. Like if they didn't have that Warping Whale, for example, as their card, the one card they drew off the top, we would have won this game by now. They just happened to have just the one card they needed to a couple of times in a row. I like the additional Wasteland as well as the Ghost Quarter is a lot. You don't always see Ghost Quarter in these Eldrazi decks either. Tap for Ghost Quarter, please. Chalice of the Void. Well, here we are, I guess. They should just Ghost Quarter us here. But we've got to let our opponent make a mistake. Maybe they've got a Kozilek's command in hand and they're going to get greedy and try and use that. And then we blow them out with an Obvious World. So now that this one is the one here, that's what they should be Ghost Quartering. They do, and we die. Yeah, that was an unfortunate one there, I'm afraid. Just like one card either way away from winning it, basically every single turn of the last 2 games. All right, on to round 4. I don't think we can keep this one off the back of Once Upon a Time. Now this one, I am all about. I think we have to work out what we are playing as our first land. That's kind of the tricky part here. I think we've been off the Boseiju. We can always go and fetch it with the Sylvan Scrying. So, depends what we're trying to play towards. I think the correct play here is Bayou. The reason for this is this allows us to throw away something that we don't care about if we get Wastelanded. It also gives us the ability to get a Bojuka Bog in case our opponent's doing something busted that needs to be answered. So I think this ends up just being the best thing. Also conceals what we're doing the best. A Wasteland. Just crop rotate and go and get ourselves. I think it's just going to be another Bayou. Pithing Needle. I'll play a Pithing Needle on Wasteland, please. And I'll play a Thespian Stage. So next turn, we can play this Dark Depths. So we could have turned this, our Bayou, into a Urborg or something, so that we could go a turn quicker. But we don't know what we're trying to actually interact with on our opponent's end of things. So if we play this out, we can then Sylvan Scrying the following turn. We're going to be a little bit slower off the mark here. Do we need to Sylvan Scrying right now? That's kind of the question here. Alright, let's try and Sylvan Scrying and see if we can get something out of their hand. You got Force of Will? They did not. Okay, I think we get the Sejiri Steppes. This way we can push through a flyable blocker. This does mean we're a little bit colder to something like the Brazen Borrower, but we have 7 discard spells that we can check the coast is clear with. And we do still have 2 Not of This World we can draw. They revealed a Ponder. They're going to bash us for 3. See what sort of Delver list our opponent is. Are they mono blue? Are they blue red? Are they blue black? They're Grixis. Are they that unusual blue green one that pops around every now and then with Beanstalk and Hooting Mandrills and stuff. Flooded Strand. Once Upon a Time. Sure. Let's pass it over. We are blue red. Can we still cut her away? If If our opponent taps out of Brazen Borrower, then we just send it. Our opponent can play an interesting game where they keep the Exilactor Aberration back, but then they also hold up their mana. If they're attacking here, then we're probably just casting this once upon a time. We've got time. Ponder. Okay, so they need to play another land here. I guess they could have a Stifle. They shuffled off that Ponder. There is the Wasteland. So they're holding up Brazen Borrower here. So we're just going to get a little once upon a time action. This can find us a Ghost Quarter and whatnot. How do I feel about Hexmage? Don't mind it. Discard spell. We did find a discard spell. Good. Rewarded for patience. Now they could Force of Will to protect this. They did not. Lightning Bolt. Brainstorm, 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 Stifle. I guess we take the Stifle here. This uses less resources. But this is uncounterable. So I think we're just going to go for the uncounterable Marit Lage plan. So they need to brainstorm into a Brazen Borrower. They probably have 2 of them tops in their list. And they might know if they're alive or dead based on what's happening right here. I guess they get to see a couple more cards of these Brainstorms. But if they do Brazen Borrow us, we then just get to go again with another combo. So here's the second Brainstorm. 3 mana. It's playing a Murktide? They are. Well, they know this doesn't work, right? Because we have Sejiri Steppe. What am I missing here? I don't think we're missing anything. Sejiri Steppe. Give our creature pro blue. Here's one I prepared earlier. It's bash for lethal. Alright. This is like one of the bread and butter matchups of this deck. So we don't need Bojuka Bog here. We don't want the Once Upon a Times here. We just want to have some Not of This World and an Abrupt Decay. We can get rid of a blocker. That's about all we're working with here. Our deck isn't really one that wants to be boarding out crop rotations, even though they can be bad into counter spells. We're supposed to just pick them apart with a discard. So this matchup is, in my records, roughly around the 60%. But, you know, that's still 40% of the time that they beat you. So even though it's positive, and we're usually happy to see it, it's not as easy as something like the mono-red matchup from round 1. This hand is not the one for me. I don't think this one is the one for me either. We're going to 5. Okay. So, put back one of these. I guess we put back the crop rotation. We have a plan. It's powerful, but there are some significant weaknesses to our plan. What is their turn 1 going to be? Is it going to be Ponder, or is it going to be Delver, or is it going to be Dragon's Rage Channeler? It's Delver. Cool. This can buy them a turn later on. Okay, that is a Bayou. I will play out this Lotus Petal around a daze. Now I will Thoughtseize our opponent. 5 cards over there. Are they good ones? Dismember, Daze, Ponder, Unable to Scream. Given what our hand does, I think we have to take the Daze here. Unable to Scream is interesting. So our plan is play the Hexmage. We don't get to play around Wasteland here because of the Unable to Scream. Because they can put this on our Marit Lage and it becomes a 0-2. And then we get very sad. But I guess they have some situations where they can dismember our guy if they have a land untapped here. And then Unable to Scream our guy. So it's going to be an awkward one. But we can just slow roll this a little bit. Okay, a second Ponder. This means that we can do this and they can still dismember and then Unable to Scream us. Okay, we're going to have to work our way around what's happening here. But, you know, we mull to 5. We're going to have to take our chances on certain things. A crop rotation. Sure, I think we turn this into an Urborg, play the Dark Depths, play a Hexmage, and then we can do this twice. Is the last card in your hand a Force of Will? It was not. Or at least that's not where they wanted to point it if it was. So what we don't want to see is a Wasteland from our opponent. If they have Wasteland, Unable to Scream, and Dismember, it can get a little bit sketchy. I think they should just let it go. They have this covered by what's in their hand. Okay, I'll pay. So this should flip because they've been doing a lot of pondering. There is a Force of Will. not in love with seeing that one. So they should dismember our Hexmage. Yep, there it is. Sure. Because if we make the 2020, then it becomes a 0-2, and then we just never get to win the game. It's always an interesting battle versus Delver. A Verdant Catacombs. I believe our play here is to do nothing. So we have options available to us. We can just play out this Hexmage right now. It probably just eats the force. So if we find a discard spell, we're going to regret playing this. But if we find a crop rotation next turn, then we'll be happy we've done this. If we find a Thespian stage or another Hexmage, we're going to be happy we find this. I think it ends up being that we want to cast this. Yep, so unable to scream, pitching that, sure. And then our opponent's basically just all in on this Delver. Our deck is designed to find the thing that goes with Dark Depths. A Ponder, that's really good as a draw off the top for our opponent there. If they find a Wasteland, we're obviously in trouble. We can live with a Daze. Brazen Borrow is obviously very good as well. Right, that's the last card that we knew about over there. We're going to crack this now. Do we crack this now? Try and get a buy. They're not going to point a Wasteland at this anyway. An Elvish Spirit Guide. I don't think there's any point playing this out. It can help us play around soft permission. We can start manually removing counters from Dark Depths, but for the observant people out there, our opponent has a 3-2 and we're on 10 life. It's correct for us to keep doing this, but it's not going to make a difference. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. Let's hope they're not really good ones. A Forest. That's not the one we wanted. We're going to see just a Brazen Borrower as a threat here. No, it's a Thundering Falls. I don't think they would use a Brazen Borrower as a threat, unless they had a Lightning Bolt in hand. We don't know how many Lightning Bolts are in their deck. There is a Wasteland. That's one of the ones we didn't want to see. Boseiju, that answers the Wasteland problem. But we have 1 turn to find the thing that goes with the Dark Depths. And our opponent has to not have anything else in hand. So, not going to be an easy one. Okay, we did find it though. Let's try and blow up this Wasteland. Oh, they're going to Lightning Bolt our face. Sure. They did have some Lightning Bolts in. Okay. That was obviously very close. If we'd have maybe mulliganed to 6 instead of 5, I think we'd probably get over the finish line there. Happy with how we sideboarded. Unable to scream is a very curious one. Alright. Let's keep it as is, I think. Inquisition and Thoughtseize, both pretty useful here. We're going to need to find another mana source, but I think we can probably do that. I'm going to keep this one. We're going to have time, because our opponent doesn't clock us in like the first couple of turns of the game. They generally want to play like a 6-turn game, which is a lot of draw steps to find a piece of mana, which is all we really need here. Alright, Thoughtseize, let's take a peek. Brainstorm, Brainstorm, Daze, Daze, Stifle. Brainstorm, Brainstorm, Daze, Daze, Stifle. Intriguing. Guess we take a Stifle here. No Wasteland, which is helpful to our cause. We can get through these dazes eventually. An Inquisition of Kozilek. Do you want to daze this? Do you want to Brainstorm and hide your hand? No. Okay, I guess we take one of the dazes here. So we have 2 options available to us. We can play out this Dark Depths, which means that if we draw like an Urborg, we're in a better position. But it does expose us to a Wasteland that our opponent can dig for with their Brainstorms. If we don't play this out, they probably just Wasteland this and we're equally in trouble. I think we do play this out. You have to work out what the various margins are when you play this deck. Right, an end of turn Brainstorm. Kind of surprised I didn't do that in response to the Inquisition, but I guess we don't really have many viable things to take there. We're not really protecting their hand. A Brainstorm again. So our opponent's hand is going to be completely new information. But we have protection for the guy. We have another piece of hand disruption we can fire off. We're not under any pressure yet. A Thoughtseize. Alright, I think we're going to Inquisition this time. We have to make a weird decision if they daze here. Spell Pierce, okay. No decisions to be made there. Our opponent's got a bit of an unusual build over there. Spell Pierces, unable to screen. There's a few little things that aren't the usual customers that you would see in a Delver deck. So maybe we're supposed to tweak our sideboarding slightly. But I think just having a boatload of discard is kind of where we want to be. They shuffled off that Ponder. And they found a Wasteland. They could hit our Bayou here. Corey Steelcutter. So they can't make any tokens with this turn. We have a small window here to do something if we can find a land. Not really working out for us right now, is it? We could Boseiju this, but I don't think that's what we're actually worried about. Do I want to make sure that our Thoughtseize gets through the days? I think we do. This is also our answer to Wasteland, potentially. Not hitting a land at all, and it's now turn 4, is very awkward for us. Right, I think we just have to play this out and keep producing mana. Because if our opponent dazes this, I would like to pay. Brazen Borrower. We don't care about the Borrower. We do kind of care about the daze. Brainstorm is also annoying. I think I'm going to take the Brainstorm, actually. And then I guess we pass it over. Oh, I clicked the wrong card there. They've got a daze in hand, as well as this Borrower. We need to remember that. Thespian's Stage, you say? So I can turn this Thespian Stage into something else. So I can turn it into a Bayou to give us black. And that's kind of interesting. But I think we just have to hold up. So they can't preemptively Wasteland us. Would have liked the black there. Again, we're not under pressure though. We have this Not of This World. If we can just find an Urborg, would be the perfect draw here. Let's speak into existence. Urborg. It is weird when that happens. It happens more often than you would think. I could get frisky. Fire off this Wasteland now. We copy this. Then they go to bounce. We protect it. They daze. We Spirit Guides pay for the daze. That'll be a cool little exchange. Alright, we're just getting a full-on Force of Will, are we? What are you going to pitch? Probably the daze. They did pitch the daze. We get to make the same play next turn, and again, we're not under any pressure here. A Lightning Bolt. This will give them a Steel Cutter. That is a tiny bit of pressure. But again, we don't care about this. We know the one card in our opponent's hand, they get one card off the top here. Hopefully it's not a cantrip. We haven't seen any baubles and stuff, which is what you'd normally expect alongside Steel Cutter. You also, the Delver's not great with the Steel Cutter either, because it's another thing that doesn't flip it. Alright, a Delver. That's fine. I think we are odds on to win this one now. I will play this Forest. I will deploy Your Friend and Mine and Vampire Hexmage. We know the one card in our opponent's hand here. Bit of a grindy matchup, this one. It was good fun. Alright, we're going to have some effects on our opponent's upkeep. We could do it now, so that they don't get 2 spells for the Corey Steel Cutter. Is that worth doing? I guess they'll just bounce it on our turn, though. That's also fine, isn't it? Alright, let's try and make this guy now to dodge a second Wasteland. So they can Wasteland this, and then we can just copy it. And we're just trying to hope the top card of their deck isn't one that we are worried about. I think we do have to play around a second Wasteland. They can Wasteland it now if they wish. They would wish to. Okay, I'll make a copy. And if they bounce this in our turn, then they can't get 2 triggers for this Corey Steel Cuts. That buys us more time if we need to try and reassemble the combo. I don't think they're going to bounce this now. Oh, they decided they do want to. Okay, they're thinking about it. Yeah, they would rather have some sort of way of backing this up. Let's see what the Delver Secrets reveals. Nothing. That's very good news for us. I guess unless it's unable to scream. Say no to this. What is the one card in your hand? If it's unable to scream, we can draw Abrupt Decay and win the game still. It wasn't, and we get the game. Okay, so this is kind of like a grindy back and forth one. Sometimes they'll have a lot of pressure early on, and then you have to sort of play things differently, but our opponent was playing quite a cagey game. Because they can either hold up a bunch of stuff, like Wastelands and things, or they can, like Wastelands and Spell Piercers and stuff, and Stifles, or they can be pressuring you. It's very hard for them to do both. But sometimes they do, sometimes you do just get Delvered. That's why it's 60-40, not like a 70-30 sort of matchup. Right, we're 2-2, going to the final round now. Let's see if we can put a positive on the board. Turn 1, Thoughtseize. Turn 2, nothing. Turn 3, we kill our opponent. Or we make our 2020. This is slow, but I like having their hand disruption. This is the format where hand disruption is pretty darn clutch right now. Are we the one who's about to get Thoughtseize though? No, it's just an island. It's a Tamiyo. Yeah, it's a pretty good card. Alright, so let's go for Thoughtseize. See if we can slow this train down. The fact they're on 19 means we don't care about the -1 power from the Tamiyo. Oh, it's a Daze. What are they protecting over there? So next turn we can play out a Boseiju and then hold up the crop rotation. Them dazing means they're further away from using the clues from Tamiyo. But maybe their plan is just to brainstorm and get Tamiyo going that way. It was a very aggressive daze. Here is the brainstorm. Sure. So we're kind of incentivized to fire off a crop rotation sooner rather than later, because they can just buy back this daze. We could wait for them to buy it back, but then they'll have mana open and they may be able to interact with us in other ways. So we're probably looking at crop rotation this turn cycle. Yep, you can plus. The game should be won or lost before this pops. Once upon a time. We can't cast you for free, sadly. Alright, we'll play out our Boseiju, I think. So we have some options here about when we cast this crop rotation. I'm going to try and wait till our opponent's turn and see if there's anything we need to be doing differently. Like if they try and waste us, we can maybe change things up a touch. I ponder, sure. We do need to sacrifice this to the crop rotation. Alright, that's an Underground Sea. Thoughtseize us or something. Okay, they're just plussing a Tamiyo. So we are under the gun for this time-wise, so let's see if they have a force of will. It's very much one of those times where we have to put our opponent to a test, because this is going to go up, and then the turn after it's going to draw infinite cards, and we're probably not going to be able to beat all those cards. Okay. So now we have a Thespian stage. So the question is, what are we playing around? So our opponent could be like Archon of Cruelty reanimating us next turn. I guess we'll at least see what our opponent does with this Underground Sea in our end step. If they entomb, then we can't do this. Otherwise, we probably play around Wasteland. Okay, there's the entomb. So we have to just let the entomb happen. And then we have to hope they don't have a Wasteland. If they reanimate this guy, it doesn't beat us because we use the Sejiri Steppe to push through. Atraxa. Sure, that's fine. Not fine, but it's something. So if they reanimate this... Okay, they played this instead of a Wasteland. That is beautiful news for us. I think we are odds on to win this game. So they reanimate the Atraxa. They get a bunch of cards. We get a 20/20. We give it protection. We go through. They die. So if they'd have not cast this Entomb and waited until their turn, maybe things pan out differently for them. Wasteland, Ponder, Force of Will. They already played their land for turn, so that was a mistake that we get to capitalize on. I think our opponents really let us in here. Now, if they just have the Brazen Borrower here, then we lose. And, you know, sometimes your opponent will have everything, and that is Magic the Gathering. Sometimes we have everything, and then our opponent doesn't get to do anything. Let's hope they don't have their 1 or 2 of Brazen Borrower in their deck. I think, no, these are more like 2 to 3 of Brazen Borrower. If they have it, they probably fire it off now. Yep, they did have it. Okay. It wasn't one of their cards they got off their thing either. So... what are we doing? They're about to draw their whole deck. I think we just scoop this one up. I think that's the correct play there. Yep, a little bit awkward. They had the Daze to protect their hand. They had Entomb Reanimate. They also had the Brazen Borrower. And it wasn't one of the cards they found. I don't feel bad for losing that one. Okay, so we can get rid of a Disruptor Flute. And a couple of... get rid of the Once Upon a Times. So you can just leave one Once Upon a Time in. And take out an Of This World is also fine. Yeah, sure. We have a lot of hand disruption. So probably just lead off Thoughtseize. Then we can Duress the following turn. And then we can make a Marit Lage in theory. Or we can go and tutor for something. And then worry about making a Marit Lage. We have options. Depending on our opponent's hand and how soft it is, we might be able to make a turn 2 Marit Lage by crop rotating into Urborg, playing it out this way. This matchup in my records is roughly the 55%. So it's pretty even. Animate Dead, Brazen Borrower, Reanimate, Tamiyo. They do have a Wasteland though. I'd rather they didn't have that. Let's take the Brazen Borrower. If our opponent plays their Marsh Flats, gets an Underground Sea, plays Tamiyo. Then we make a 20/20 next turn. Thoughtseize. Not a bad rip, opponent. Not a bad rip at all. They probably take out the Hexmage here. Yep, okay, let's draw another Hexmage. Get that Thoughtseize bug going for us. We do have perfect information on our opponent's hand. A Bojuka Bog. Not the most exciting. I will play this one out. Do I even care about duressing one of these 3 cards? They all do the same thing. I don't think this is where we're doing any of our actions. Maybe we should have played the Bojuka Bog there. But I wouldn't mind tagging something with it. So they probably play out their Wasteland here. Yep. And then they play out their Tamiyo. There it is. Alright, I guess we'll crack this now and get a Bayou. An Elvish Spirit Guide. Does that change anything here? Possibly. So we play this one out. We can crop rotate for Thespian stage and go off. So if our opponent gets cocky here, we can get them. So if they tap out with this, or they decide to just fire it off, we can get them. If they play a second Wasteland here, then yeah, sure, your draws are better than mine, you win the game. That's fine. Faerie Macabre, I don't hate having access to that one. Let's do this Bojuka Bog, take out your graveyard. It's very annoying our opponent top decked that Thoughtseize when they did. I don't think there's other things they could have top decked that would have been as bad for that. Like, Force of Will at least gets rid of their Tamiyo. So they're going to get this land out. They're going to use these lands to keep up their Wasteland and then crack this clue. We haven't seen a lot of Pithing Needles today. We are running effectively 5 of them. These cards in our opponent's hand are very dead with our Faerie Macabre though. But they are drawing a lot of additional cards. Ponder, very good here. If they want to flip the Tamiyo, they can, but they do run the risk of having a 20/20 getting all up in their business. And the minus on this won't matter. Opponent, what are you doing? What are you doing to me here? I'm going to crop rotate this Bojuka Bog. I'm getting Force of Will, pitching a Traxxas. Sure, that's obviously pretty good. So they might see this and then immediately Wasteland our Dark Depths. They took the Faerie Macabre. A Vampire Hexmage, you say? Alright, I'm going to play out. We can beat our opponent down. They can Wasteland this Dark Depths. They didn't Wasteland the Dark Depths in response. They've had 2 really good opportunities to Wasteland our Dark Depths and haven't taken them here. So when they had perfect information, they knew that they could Wasteland this and we get nothing. They didn't do it. And then with this on the stack, they didn't do it either. And they had perfect information on that moment as well. I really don't like how our opponents played this one. Now, not a lot of people have a lot of reps with Turbodepths. Like, I've got several hundred reps into Blueback Reanimator. They're getting a Vampire Hexmage. Sure. Would you like to remove the counters from my Dark Depths for me? So we can use Vampire Hexmage to counter a Tamiyo. So if they flip this, we can remove all the counters. It's not really what we want to be doing. So we are very much looking to draw Pithing Needle or Ghost Quarter, that sort of thing. Okay, we can daze our opponent here. So we can duress our opponent, and then we can Ghost Quarter them, and then we can get 20/20. Thoughtseize, animate dead. Is there anything good they can animate dead here? No. Do I care about being Thoughtseized? No. Reanimate is more efficient than animate dead. So we'll leave them with the more costly one in terms of doing anything. So Thoughtseize and Reanimate our opponent's 2 cards. Let's crop rotate away this Bayou. Feel free to Wasteland me, but I'm still going to make a 20/20. So the reason we duress first is in case our opponent has something like a Spell Pierce. I guess we could pay for a Spell Pierce. Oh, this is an interesting play. Because they're going to remove all these counters from this, and then they can Wasteland it. But then... What? This is so weird. Okay, but then we're just going to go and get this. That ends up the same for us. Some very peculiar plays on the other side of the battlefield here. And then we'll just do this ourselves. We know what cards are in our opponent's hand, so... This plays around Wasteland. They have 1 draw step and it has to be Brazen Borrower. They can chump block, which gives them a 2nd draw step. But given how things have gone today, I imagine they've just drawn off the top. Okay, they didn't draw off the top. That's good news. So Tamiyo goes under the bus unless we draw a Crop Rotation or a Sejiri Steppe. Or, no, we didn't board in an Abrupt Decay. Right, we attack first. And then we will fire off this Thoughtseize just in case the card they drew off the Tamiyo was the Brazen Borrower. I don't think they should have drawn the card when they did either. Because now we have an opportunity to take it out of their hand if it is the Brazen Borrower. Tamiyo, Ponder, Thoughtseize. So Tamiyo buys them another turn. Ponder can find them a way through. Interesting. I think we take the Tamiyo here though. Because they have to find, with the Ponder, they have to find a land as well. Now they can just reanimate a Tamiyo, but then that's their whole turn, unless they find a land. We already got rid of one Brazen Borrower in the first turn of the game. I think our opponent made a handful of mistakes here. And if we still don't win, that's very unfortunate. Animate dead on the Tamiyo. Sure. Again, Sejiri Steppe gets us where we need to be. Our opponent has some cards over there. Let's turn this sideways. They block. We Inquisition, take the Ponder this time. They have a Force of Will. We don't care about that. So they've got... They can crack this clue, but then they're not going to have any mana to deal with this. Unless they've drawn a land for turn, they can find another reanimate or whatever. But eventually we managed to beat our way through what our opponent was doing. Okay. That felt a real slog. Our opponent had to rip that Thoughtseize for it to end up taking as long as it did. This seems fine. We're just going to go in again. This hand has some issues. We don't have to worry about our opponent doing graveyard stuff when we have a Faerie Macabre. But how are we getting anywhere here? So we have to use this Spirit Guide to Sylvan Scrying. And then that needs to find us one of our combo pieces. Then this needs to find us the other combo piece. I think we should just mulligan. Yes, I'll keep this one. Goodbye, additional Urborg that we don't want. Alright, Marsh Flats. Are we getting Thoughtseize or are we just playing a Tamiyo or a Ponder? It's a Thoughtseize, so we're going to lose the one card in our hand that does anything. That's not true. These cards obviously do things, but they're just lands. You know what I mean out there, lovely people. Sometimes when you record 10 rounds of Magic in a day, your brain slightly turns to mush. Let's play this Urborg. This gives us other options like playing Hexmage if we draw it next turn. Makes our opponent also think about that, so they maybe can't commit to the board because they're worried about what we're going to do here. Tamiyo, sure. No second land. Understood. Alright, we have 2 Dark Depths, so we play this one out and we pass. So they get a clue in this turn, and then next turn we can see what they're doing. Given our opponent's made a few mistakes in this matchup already, I'm quite interested in trying to... I'm going to be more likely to play into our opponent making a mistake than I would do against other opponents. Just because of how our opponent's been playing this game so far. Or not necessarily this game, but the previous game. Okay, we can play around Wasteland here. And just make it. Now loses to Brazen Borrower if they find a land. They haven't been doing lands lately. They're more likely... Yeah, I think we make it now. They're way more likely to have a Wasteland than they are to have one of their Brazen Borrowers. And we have a second Dark Depths that we can leverage if we need to. If they go for like a Archon of Cruelty and Tomb Reanimate play, we can Faerie Macabre that out of the graveyard. Alright, looks like Tamiyo is back on blocks. Let's send in the Clown. Let's Bojuka Bog so that we can stop them reanimating a Tamiyo. Got a land over their opponent. A Brainstorm. So for 1 mana, they need basically Tamiyo here. Unless they're running Unable to Scream like our Delver opponent was in the previous round. I think our percentage of winning this game is pretty high. We're probably like 80 to 90% on to win this game. If they go land Tamiyo, then they get to live another turn. It's the Tamiyo. Maybe we can find the Sejiri Steppe. Maybe it's our turn to draw nice and luckily here. We can try a Crop Rotation if we find one. Okay, so we're obviously attacking here. So we can play our Dark Depths in case we draw a Thespian stage next turn. But that does expose us to Wasteland on this extra one. But they already have a problem they need to worry about. So Brazen Borrower plus Wasteland could be an annoying problem for us. I think I'm okay to play the Dark Depths out for the reasons I just mentioned though. We can start manually removing counters. If they go for a like animate dead on Tamiyo to survive a turn, then we can just say no to that. A Thoughtseize. Targeting us. Okay, I'm going to get rid of these things. Alright, we win the match. I think maybe they were trying to reanimate the Tamiyo there. So we finished with a 3-2. One of the rounds we lost was to the white energy deck. That matchup is horrible. It's certainly winnable. You need to keep a quick hand. I think it's, at the moment in my data, it's about 46% matchup. However, I think that's based on my specific data, whereas I think generally it feels more like a 40% matchup. The other one we lost was Eldrazi, where they had to have an exact run of things they needed to beat us in another game. So I don't feel bad about losing that one. Could have easily gone the other way and been a pretty comfortable 4-1. So, what do I have to say about this deck? Well, if you're really interested in what I have to say about this deck, please check out the Patreon link in the description. It has a detailed guide over 50 pages into how to play this deck, how to sequence lands, what you're trying to play around in various things. There's also a sideboarding matrix, so you can see like your ins and outs in all your various matchups. Also a discussion of like how to play a budget version of this deck, or how to tweak it based on what your meta is and what all the different pieces together do. So obviously I am a big lover of this deck. This is like my baby, and I spend a lot of time with it. My current overall win rate with the deck is 69%, which is obviously very nice. And I hope you enjoy watching me play it, because I have an absolute blast playing it. Even if I did forget that I had a Once Upon a Time in my hand at one point today. That was quite amusing to me. It wasn't relevant to our game plan in terms of how things were being played out with our hand, but obviously we should have cast it for free. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 6,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you can be one of the people that helps me make that goal, it means a lot to me. Alright, once again, cheers for watching, and goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.